Coming up next on Two Cops, One Donut.
So Richard Martinez was a Fort Worth police officer. He was then hired by a federal agency, right? One of the three-letter agencies, the one I work for. I met Richard originally in 1999. When I arrived at the drug task force I work on, he taught me how to work narcotics. We became very good friends. He eventually was hired by the three-letter agency, right? And in 2009, Richard would tell you he woke up with cancer. Woke up, had blood in his urine, went to the hospital, found out he had kidney cancer.
All right, welcome back to Cops One Donut. I am your host, Eric Levine, and today I have Melanie and Brian Finney with me. And for those wondering, we're going to talk about nonprofit. We're going to talk about some secret three-letter agencies that shall not be named. They'll be the Voldemort of agencies, but you guys get the point. We've talked about that before. Let me turn my gain down. I feel like I'm talking really loud. Turn that. Maybe it's just in my headphones, but this is kind of the fun part about running your own podcast is you got to do all this crap by yourself, which kind of stinks. But I don't have a Jamie. If you guys ever listen to Joe Rogan podcast, are you podcast listeners at all?
I am a little bit.
A little bit? Okay. What do you like?
I listen to true crime stuff.
Okay. Hell yeah. Okay, cool. So let's get back to you guys. Melanie, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. I'm well. Thank you.
Brian?
Good morning.
He's like, I'm here. Did you guys get here very easily? Was it traffic bad? Or
no, it wasn't bad at all.
Okay. How long was the trip?
About an hour.
Holy cow. You are probably the third farthest travelers I've had. My farthest was from San Antonio. Actually, let me take that back. Suresh from 221B Tactical. Are you guys familiar with that company? No. Okay. There's a guy that makes this dry vest thing that goes underneath your vest. It looks like you're wearing a fishnet, like bulletproof vest, if that makes sense. And it just keeps an air barrier between your vest and your body. But he was an old New Jersey cop, but he came out and it's weird. We've been friends for a while. I actually got his company to my department before he ever blew up. Like, he was still a cop when this was going on. And he came out to our department, gave guys a bunch of dry vests, gave them some gloves, went over to Dallas, gave them some stuff, and just a good dude. And he was a cop. So he ended up blowing up. His whole company just took off, and now he's set. He's not a cop anymore.
That's
he's
awesome.
Living down in Florida. He flew himself out on a private jet, and yeah, fancy dude. But he's the farthest traveled. So, but no, I appreciate you guys making the trip. Makes me feel special.
Thank you for having us.
Not a problem. I want to give a little shout out to Bailey's Hyper Performance. They gave me this cup. I did an interview with them for the Brotherhood for the Fallen, and he gave me this cup, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to make sure the next in-studio podcast I do that I give him a little shout out, because that is him. That looks just like him, minus the scary skull. So I was like, dude, you can never shave your beard. You know that, right? Because it's kind of your logo.
You're the logo.
Yeah. So, but let me get back to the point. We're going to be talking about a nonprofit, specifically referring to cancer and police and stuff like that. But everybody that's familiar with my show knows my format. We're going to get to know you guys first, and then we'll get into the bread and butter of what we came here to talk about. So, ladies first. Melanie, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? Why are you here?
Oh, why am I here? I'm here because you invited us to be here.
That's true.
So, yeah, where am I from? Born and raised in Texas. Spent most of my life here. Moved around for work a little bit up into the Northeast, and thankfully made my way back to Texas. So, been in law enforcement now for 27 years.
Okay.
27 years.
You got me beat.
So
I'm at 17.
Eligible to retire, so that's a good thing. But
not ready.
No, not yet. Not yet. Maybe one day.
Okay. So law enforcement background. I like to kind of populate why people get into law enforcement. So was there, so you can have an idea where I'm going with this. For me, my dad was a retired cop from the department I work for. I have an aunt that was a state trooper in Michigan growing up. Grandfather was a fire captain. He became the fire chief later on, but growing up, he was a captain forever. And I would say it wasn't my dad. It wasn't necessarily my grandpa or my aunt or any of that stuff that made me do it. It was when we'd have family get-togethers, who was the one everybody wanted to be around and talk to and got the respect. Like, and it wasn't that I was power hungry for respect in my family. It was just like everybody was so happy and laughing and always having a good time around these people. And that's how, I guess, it took me, I'm 40. It took me probably 33 years-ish to learn that about myself. Like, oh, that's what drew me to it. It wasn't because of my dad. It wasn't because, those were all factors for sure, but that's why I did it. So what was your drawing factor for that?
I have no story like that at all. I have 0 family members in law enforcement when I joined law enforcement. Yeah. And a lot of people do it because they have family members. So I was kind of the first in my family. Went to college, have a 4-year degree in criminal justice, fully intended to go to law school and be a prosecutor. That's really where the draw was for me. Grew up loving, Nancy Drew books, watching crime TV with my parents, watching, Perry Mason with my mom, things like that. Like I just grew up kind of in this investigative, loving that kind of thing. People would say I'm nosy, I guess. I like to, dig into people's backgrounds and dig into the facts and try to problem solve. And anyway, so that was my plan. I was going to be a prosecutor. I was planning to go to law school after I graduated. The summer between my junior and senior year in college, I did an internship at the Harris County District Attorney's Office, thinking full well I would get to see what exciting things prosecutors did all day long and, kind of cut my teeth, as they say, and get to see what they did. So my first day on my internship, I was assigned to work with the investigators at the DA's office. And I was like, that's not what I signed up for. I signed up to work with the prosecutors. Instead, I spent the summer with a couple of retired Houston PD officers that were old and crusty and now were DA's investigators and worked in, I was assigned actually to the child exploitation, family violence, missing exploited children unit, kind of all worked together. And I loved it. I fell in love with just the investigative part of it, I guess, and decided that summer that I wasn't not going to go to law school, instead that I wanted to do investigations. So graduated from college, applied actually to a federal law enforcement agency on a whim, saw that they were hiring, and the Houston Chronicle, applied, took the test, started working for one agency, and I was there about 4.5 years, and then transferred to a different federal agency.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That's kind of
nice.
how I got my start.
We'll get into some more of the meat and potatoes of that, but I want to get to Brian because you guys are both in law enforcement.
That's right. Yes.
Power couple. I love it.
Yeah, it's good.
Not the same or the same?
Not the same.
Okay. Yeah, that's smart. I don't think I'd want to work the same place with my wife either.
Yeah, we try not to work together.
Yeah. Yeah, it never goes well. I see married cops that work in the same building, and I'm just like, dude, there's no escape. Like, it's kind of the benefit of work, gives you some breathing room. So
Yeah, we've made the mistake once or twice of being in a raid van together and looking at each other thinking, what in the world are we doing? Like, we should not both be in this raid van.
Knowing full well.
Yeah.
It's
if something bad happens, it's just not good. So we've worked really hard to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Okay. Smart. I mean, it is smart. And if you're listening and you're like, all right, I'm not in the law enforcement field, why is that a bad idea? Because if shit hits the fan and now you have to catch the bad guy, or you have to stay back with your loved one, or you get put in a really bad position, where hostage situation or anything like that. I mean, we're talking worst case scenario, but it's just never good. And then on top of that, it's like it's very hard to separate the professional from the family dynamic
Sure.
if you're on a topic, like if you think to investigate this way and this will be the best lead, but he's like, no, well, now he's got more cause because you guys got that relationship where he thinks he can maybe bulldog you in that. I don't know. Or vice versa. Yeah, I'm sure it's vice versa. Yeah.
It's vice versa.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're going to lose. Even if you win, you lose. So that's what I was taught.
Yes.
Just apologize. That's it. Just sorry, honey. My bad. Won't happen again.
Exactly.
Yeah. But so same thing. What's your background, sir?
Again, no family history in law enforcement.
The hell?
I've always been a rule follower, which some people that know me would laugh about that statement, but especially as a young person, had some friends whose parents were cops. Really planned. My plan was the town I grew up in had a program through the police department that if you worked as a jailer while you went to college, they would pay for your college. And then when you were done, you got your degree, they would hire you as an officer. You had a commitment to the department for a period of time. And that really was my plan. My grandfather approached me my senior year of high school and said, I want to send you away to college. So I went away, found a school that had a criminal justice program. I knew that's what I wanted to do. Of course, my family wanted me to major in business, anything but law enforcement, anything but a criminal justice degree. But I knew that's what I wanted. Then, while I went to college, I worked for a prison, full-time as a prison guard. Quickly learned that that's not what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. It was a great job while I went to college, but I quickly learned that I did not want to be a prison guard for the next 30 years. So when I got my degree, every intention was to be a local or a state trooper, be a local police officer or a state trooper. That's really what I wanted to do. We met in college. We met in a criminal justice class.
Okay.
I like to say she fell in love with the uniform of the prison system because I used to have to wear my uniform to class because I would go straight from class to work. But it's an awful uniform, so there's no way that's really
Was it
what
the
happened.
old gray?
It was, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it was awful.
Okay.
But, we were young. We got married very young. And actually she was, as far as, I was a prison guard, but actually as far as being in law enforcement, she was in law enforcement before I was in law enforcement.
Oh, really?
It was always the plan, but she got hired first by one of the federal agencies that moved us to the Northeast. And I followed, went to a police academy, went to one of those pay for yourself to go to a police academy.
Oh, yeah.
And immediately got out and got a job up in the Northeast. They have a lot of very small departments. And I actually started as a part-time police officer making $10 an hour.
Oh,
I had to buy all of my own uniforms, my own vest, my gun, my belt, but I loved it.
yeah.
I loved being a street cop.
That is still a problem. That's still a problem today. And I call it a problem because it is to me. You expect somebody to go out there and, one, be the jack of all trades and be the master of them, which isn't possible with the amount that, they expect cops to be lawyers. They expect them to, in you pursuing law at one time or thinking about it, like even who's done an internship, like lawyers don't know all the laws. They literally have to, even if it's a law they know, they refer back to the book and they're like, all right, let me brush up on this law real quick to make sure that they have it down because you can't memorize all of it. The laws are stacked, to the ceiling from here. So what bugs me is they expect you to do all this stuff and they're going to make you pay for your way through an academy. They're not going to sponsor you. So there's two different ways of people wondering. You either get sponsored where a department actually puts you through an academy that they'll send you to, or you pay for yourself and then hope a department picks you up because you're certified. The third way is like my department, we have our own academy. There is no outsiders going through our academy. It's, our way, and then we teach you our way, and you stay. So that's my favorite way, by the way. Having gone through 3 academies myself, I was a military cop. I still am. Military cop, and then I was a cop up in Michigan, and then come down here. So been to several academies, and that's my favorite way. But then you talk about being hired part-time. Well, like up in Michigan, one of the things that they're doing is you get hired part-time by a department. They will not hire you for 40 hours because they don't want to pay you benefits. So you work for a surrounding agency, and the agencies will say, yeah, we'll take them if you guys take them type thing. And now you've got a guy with 2 sets of uniforms, 2 radios, all these different things. I got a family member doing it, and he literally showed up in the wrong uniform one day, just worn out, but he can't get benefits. And the whole idea is you have to earn your way into the benefits. Screw that. That is the most ass backwards way. So it is a problem. And if your departments are doing that, y'all need to get involved, step up, help change that, because you are not going to get the candidates that you want for those positions.
Absolutely. That's exactly the situation I was in. There were, counting the chief, there were 4 full-time police officers, and there were 20 part-time guys.
Holy shit.
And all of the part-time guys, we all had other jobs.
And you had a 4-year degree.
I had a 4-year degree.
I mean, at one point he had 3 different jobs, 3 part-time jobs, but all agencies, the smaller departments, we were in Pennsylvania. And so all of the smaller departments, unless you were in, Pittsburgh, unless you were in Philadelphia, but everybody else, they're townships or boroughs, they're these small departments, and that's what they did. Nobody was hiring for full-time because you're right. They didn't want to pay you. They didn't want to pay for your health insurance. They didn't want to give you benefits. So it's just what you did.
I get it in certain types of jobs, but not in first responder world. And even you firefighters, you guys don't deserve that either. So,
it's tough.
That drives me insane. And part of the podcast is education and awareness. I can hear my wife sneezing out there. That's going to come through on this. I'm going to leave it. I say that because bless you, honey. She don't listen to my podcast. So, I want to educate people that are outside of this career field, or even I call them purists. Some people just got lucky. They hit the law enforcement jackpot, and they're at an awesome department with awesome benefits and great money and all that. I am at one now. I love my place. I won't leave. And they don't know, and they don't get it. And I try to explain to them, listen, the last place I was, one of our training buildings was almost a condemned building.
Yes,
because that's just what we could get. I was like, and here you've got a facility that is about a 1/4 mile long, and it has an indoor village, an indoor range. It's got all of these benefits to it, and you're complaining. Shut your mouth.
Yes.
You have no clue. There's other people out there doing this job for shit money, part-time, not getting benefits. They have to work 2 departments, or one department and another job that gives them insurance so they can do both. And they're willing to do that because they love, it's a calling. It is a calling.
Absolutely.
So
and I think we talk about this all the time, but we both love our jobs. I love what I do. We feel like we make a difference in people's lives. But especially with having the background that I have, obviously she knows my background, but having that background does make you appreciate when you have it really good. And I do complain about things at work, but we have it really good. I would tell you we have the best jobs in law enforcement. I
respectfully disagree, but that's okay.
I
don't know. I don't do your job, so I can't speak on that.
No, I understand.
With true honesty. So.
I wouldn't trade my job with anybody. I feel blessed to have the job that I have. The government has been very good to us as far as where we have been assigned and the freedom that we have, the things we're allowed to do, the communities we're allowed to help, the people we're allowed to help. I really feel like it's a calling, and love my job.
Okay. If you're law enforcement, stop and listen to me right now. If you're a police department that does not have an LPR system, Insight is offering the first 10 agencies, that means one agency apiece, gets one camera for free. You have to tell them that Two Cops, One Donut sent you. You heard me right. If you're a police agency that does not have an LPR system yet, or does have an LPR system, and you're not happy with the product you have, Insight is offering you a free camera, no strings attached, and they will install it. I have 10 to give out. Tell them Two Cops, One Donut sent you, or reach out to me and I will get you in contact. If you're a business owner or an HOA, please stop and listen to me right now. If you're just listening to the audio, do yourself a favor and watch the YouTube version of this episode to get a visual of what I'm about to tell you. I want to tell you guys about Insight LPR. It's a license plate reader. If your agency, community, or business is looking to invest in LPR to help solve and deter crime or to make your community safer, Insight LPR has my vote of confidence. I've met with their team. They know their LPRs, guys. They're the real deal. They bring over 75 years of collective experience to building LPR cameras and the software that supports communities across the country. The other thing I really like about this team is how much they listen to law enforcement. They understand the importance of working together with law enforcement and getting their input as they build and innovate products and their service to match the needs of law enforcement. In other words, when I complain or have suggestions to make their damn camera better, they actually do it. The Insight LPR team is extremely passionate and takes pride in their product development, which makes their cameras some of the most durable cameras in the market. For the gear nerds out there, what that means is this stuff's made of military grade aluminum and is nitrogen purged, whatever that means. This design makes the cameras rugged and able to withstand harsh weather elements. Here's the big selling point for me. Their nighttime scan accuracy is higher than most of the leading competitors. In my opinion, this is what sets them apart. As we know, the majority of crimes occur at night, so it's critical to have high scan accuracy at night. Insight's cameras check the box with the nighttime plate read accuracy greater than 96%. 96%, guys. That's pretty freaking high. If your community is looking to invest in LPR technology, reach out to one of their experts today or reach out to me. Tell them Two Cops, One Donut sent you. There's going to be people listening that are like, okay, they work for a federal agency. I've always wanted to get with a federal agency. Like,
Sure.
What's the process like to get into any of these three-letter? Because they're ATF, DEA, Homeland, ICE, Border Patrol.
Don't forget the Bureau. We always have to talk about the Bureau.
FBI. Yeah. So that's what I can spot off at the top of my head. The process is pretty much similar across the board. So what was the process like for you, Melanie, getting in?
Well, it's changed over the years, of course, but it's a long process. Most federal agencies require you to have a 4-year degree. They don't care what your degree is in. They just want you to have a 4-year degree. I mean, we've worked with people that have degrees in accounting, marine biology, whatever. It doesn't matter what your degree is in. Some federal agencies require you to have like 2 to 5 years of full-time work experience before you apply. Again, that doesn't have to be in law enforcement necessarily. It can be in whatever. It can be in anything. But a 4-year degree at a minimum. Some agencies have like outstanding scholar programs or new college graduate programs where they do some specific hirings for specific groups, people that have graduated from college in the last 2 years or people that have a 3.5 or better in college or whatever.
Okay.
And sometimes federal agencies will hire from other federal agencies. They'll hire people who already are criminal investigators with another federal agency and allow them to come over like that. But anyway, so once you apply, I mean, some agencies have open hiring where they just have a constant hiring process going. Other agencies do an announcement, put out the announcement, then you have to apply. One of the first steps for a lot of agencies is a written test. It's just some basic math, reading, writing, comprehension type stuff. And then every part of the process, they're weeding people out, right? Once you apply, you have people in DC and human resources looking at your application, and you either meet all the boxes or you don't meet the boxes. If you have to have 2+ years of work experience, if you don't have that, you're out of the process. So just as it continues, but most agencies require, a an interview, a writing sample where they give you a prompt or a topic, and you have to just show that you can write and complete sentences, you know, and have coherent thoughts. There's I may have said a panel interview. There's a physical fitness test where you have to meet certain physical fitness standards. There's, have to have a physical with a doctor to make sure you don't have any physical problems. There's a polygraph exam for most hiring processes. So generally speaking, it can take anywhere. I think they've tried to streamline it for some agencies because we were losing good applicants because it was taking
a year,
15, 18 months. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I worked for one federal agency, had my clearance, had my background, had all of that. And when I came over to my current agency, it still took me like 16 months to go through a process, right, from one agency to the other. So I think they're trying to streamline it where it's more 6 to 9 months because what's happening is you're losing good candidates because people don't necessarily want to wait around for an 18-month hiring process. Or a lot of people apply, kind of do the shotgun approach and apply to 5 or 6 federal agencies at once. And so if FBI gives you the first offer, people are inclined to take that, or Secret Service or DEA or whatever. And then when the other federal agencies come around and they're ready to offer you, a lot of times you're already in an academy because every agency, you have to go through their academy regardless of what your background is. So, a lot of agencies were losing people. So I think they're trying to streamline the process a little bit.
I bet it went faster for you than it did for him.
I don't think so. Initially, it took me 18 months to get hired.
I would think females are harder to find.
Yeah, I would agree. Just, your your applicant pool is smaller.
Yeah.
Again, I got hired initially 27 years ago. And so at the time, I don't know that it mattered. I think now there's a push to diversify the workforce.
Okay.
And so I think that there's probably more of a push, because there's by its nature, it's a male dominated profession.
Yeah.
So you're going to have, I don't know what the ratio is, 20 male applicants to every female applicant. I mean, I don't know. It may be higher than that, maybe lower than that, but
yeah, I don't find it to be a sexist issue. It's like being a bricklayer. It appeals to guys more. It's just FBI appeals to dudes more, I guess. I don't know why. Yeah. It's just what it is. Being a teacher tends to be more female dominated.
Right.
Or a nurse. My wife's a nurse. It's interesting that 27 years ago it wasn't really a factor, and now obviously now it definitely probably plays a role.
I think when I went through my first federal law enforcement academy, there were 48 people in my class, and there were 3 females, I think, out of the 48.
Cow.
Yeah. So
it's pretty low.
Yeah.
The numbers are different now, probably.
Yeah, it's probably a little higher, higher now, and it just depends. Again, there's different ways that they hire. So, if you're hiring people that are already current federal law enforcement officers, probably still have a high percentage of male applicants. If you're, recruiting at colleges and hiring people that are straight out of college, then, you may have more female agents apply.
In the streets, on patrol, I always preferred to you'd have a running buddy, call them running buddies, whatever, beat buddy, whatever. And, I'd always prefer my running buddy to be female because anytime you dealt with something, high volatile type thing, domestics is usually my go-to example. One of us will get through verbally, so, without anything bad having to happen. And there's just women think with both sides of the brain at once, and guys, we tend to be one side or the other, I guess. And I got it from my dad. He's the one that told me, he's like, I've worked with guys, I've worked with girls, 30-year career. He's like, I have never had an easier time on calls than when I had a female partner. I was like, well, shit, let me try that. I never really had a preference, but I don't want to get in the use of force. So if I can avoid it, let's try. So working with females, I've always had, I think it brings a cool dynamic to it. So if you got one of those chauvinistic guys that are macho guys out there, like, I don't want to take a call with a girl, like, you're screwing up. You're probably going to get more use of forces than you expect versus not.
Yes.
It brings a different perspective.
Yeah.
That's all. I mean, we all have strengths and weaknesses. And so, it does bring a different perspective. I mean, I've been in offices where, groups where I'm the only female, and I've been in groups where there's 2 or 3 female agents, and I mean, I've always wanted just to be treated like one of the guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to be an agent, not
Yeah.
a female agent, whatever. I just an agent. So
Did you find that as a female agent that you had to prove yourself more often than not?
I think so. Yes. And not because, I've always been really blessed. I've worked with a lot of really great guys who've treated me with respect and treated me like I was one of the guys and treated me like, I was an agent just the same. But I think that there
same dark humor around you that
and so, and that's okay. That's what I want. But I think that because there are so few female agents, I feel like when you have a bad female agent, it's because then it's looked at like, it kind of casts a shadow on
the rest
all
of the
female
females.
agents, right? Because it's like, that's a bad female agent. When we have a bad male agent or a bad male cop, it's just
he's just an asshole.
He's just he's just the problem. It doesn't speak for everybody, And so, as a female agent, I'm not trying to bring down the rest of us, right? I'm trying to, I do think sometimes you have to work a little bit harder to prove yourself, but it's okay. But I think once you prove yourself too, like I said,
you fall right in line.
It's been fine. Yeah, I don't have. I know people that have had bad experiences as a female agent or felt like they weren't treated right or treated the same or whatever. And thankfully, I don't have those experiences. I've worked with a bunch of really
27
great guys.
years. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I'm trying to. So if you're wondering why we are vague about certain things, you have to be because we're all still employed and we're not trying to get in any sort of administrative trouble with what we say here. So without getting into where you work, can we talk about what your specialty is?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So let's go with you, Brian, first. What is your specialty with what you do in law enforcement?
My specialty is very, very simple. It's narcotics. I work on a drug task force. Have worked on a drug task force for the last 24 years with state and local agencies, and we investigate narcotics trafficking.
Really? What's your favorite drug to do?
I
mean catch.
Gotcha. Really it doesn't matter. I would say the vast majority of the cases I work involve methamphetamine. It has been that way for probably close to 20 years.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. I enjoy helping outside agencies. I spend a lot of time working outside the Metroplex with the smaller agencies. A lot of the narcotics come from the bigger city to these small communities. And I find joy in helping those small communities battle their drug crime.
Okay.
I have some guys I work with at different state and local agencies outside of the Metroplex who I like them personally. And so we have a very good work relationship and have just found if we arrest someone in one of these outlying towns who, let's just say, is bringing a kilo of meth to that town once a week, if we're able to target and arrest that person, I feel like we make a better impact than we do if we arrest someone in the Metroplex with the same amount of narcotics. I don't know. It may not make any sense, but that's how I justify it.
You're cutting the head off of a snake in the Metroplex that it's just going to regrow.
Absolutely.
Like a hydra. And then you do that to a small town and you've effectively killed it.
Yeah. And there's always people who step up in those towns.
Harder and longer to find.
It is. But again, I've got buddies that work narcotics in those small towns and we enjoy working together. And so we have a niche.
Okay.
And it's successful. And again, I feel like we make an impact.
Okay. So you've been doing this 20 years. How did that become your specialty?
I just think, I can remember the first time my boss told me to go to one of these small towns that there was a request from the chief that they wanted some assistance. And we went, and again, just through the years have developed relationships with the officers, actually. Again, enjoy working with them. When we show up, they do what we ask. We can work together to target the individuals there in the town. And, again, just feel like when we arrest, one or multiple people, that we make an impact. They're very appreciative. From the mayor to the city manager, the chief of police, the narcotics lieutenant, everyone is super appreciative, and they just make it easy, and we're all, I think as a human, you're always going to go to where things are comfortable and easy. And, truthfully, any day I'm working in that small town is a day I'm not in the Metroplex, and that's always enjoyable also.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
there you go.
Hold on 1 second. I just realized something, and you guys didn't tell me.
Uh-oh.
I don't have this light pointed at you.
Oh, no, now the glare on my head is going to be way worse.
Yep. That's what I'm going for. Which way are we going to go here? Let's go here. Beautiful. There we go. I was looking at you, and I'm like, sorry, folks. I'm looking, and I'm like, man, why is their faces so shadowy looking? I'm trying to figure it out. I'm like,
Well, now there's a really bad glare now.
No,
coming off the top of my head. No, I don't know.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
I'm looking. The reason I ask is, one, I like to attract people into our career fields if I can. And so when we get to hear like the passion behind why we do what we do, I mean, you did 20 years towards one narcotic specifically because you see an issue. So there's weed, there's heroin, there's all these different drugs out there. What have you noticed consistently with, I know the answer from my perspective, but what is the trends and the consistency you've seen with that specific narcotic?
Well, I mean, obviously it is, as the years have gone on, the amount of methamphetamine in our area has exploded. Since, when I first started, methamphetamine was stereotypical white people, country people making small batches outside the city, peeling batteries and going and buying a Sudafed, and making these small batches. And at some point, the cartel took over and started with super labs in Mexico and shipping just literally tons of methamphetamine. It's just exploded. It's sad to say the price of methamphetamine has never been lower than it is right now, which is very sad to me. It makes me think we're not doing as good a job as we should be doing.
Well, it's easier to make now.
It is.
The process is way different than what, like you said, peeling batteries. People would have basically a chemistry lab that was volatile and could explode and cause fires and bad reactions to breathing in the fumes and stuff like that.
And the purity, since they've opened super labs in Mexico, the purity is close to 100% all the time.
Really?
Where the purity, back in the 90s and early 2000s, the methamphetamine that was made with anhydrous and peeling batteries, it was maybe 50 or 60% pure, where the methamphetamine we get now is almost always, 98% or higher.
That's Heisenberg.
It's just crazy.
Have you watched Breaking Bad?
No, I've never watched.
Oh my God. I'm a cop and I love Breaking Bad.
I watch a lot of cop shows, but we've never watched Breaking Bad.
Really?
Yeah.
That is unbelievable.
We'll add it to the list of shows.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
I know. It's crazy.
That is unbelievable. Have you watched The Wire?
No.
What?
I know.
How are you in narcotics?
I'm a Blue Bloods
I
guy.
like Blue Bloods. Yes.
You know, I don't know.
I like Blue Bloods. Don't get me wrong, but holy shit, those are two icon. I mean, especially for the
Yes.
meth game.
It is. No, I know, and I don't know.
Maybe we don't watch enough TV.
Yes.
Oh my god, that is unreal. So you guys have a mission. You at least need to watch Breaking Bad. The Wire may not appeal to you as much. It's more city cops and how they. It was based on a true story, written, all that stuff. So, but it shows you a breakdown of how the dope game works in an inner city.
Sure.
And but Breaking Bad is like exactly what you.
It is.
It goes through all the.
I know.
It's iconic. I know.
Yeah, and in the story is very believable because you guys don't know this, but I've told this on the podcast before. I had my own Breaking Bad story, and I'll give you the short version of it. Get a tip downtown. There's a stolen car. Go get the stolen car. Yes, it's stolen. Person driving it does not fit in the area. Has all the typical Aryan Brotherhood tattoos and all that shit. Ask him where his room's at. Room's upstairs. His girlfriend's staying in there. Go up there. She lets us in. There's meth open, but there's files everywhere, like paper files, manila folder files and stuff. And I'm like, what the hell? I get Homeland Security, NARC. Well, first I got NARC involved because we had the meth sitting out. So I was like, I'll let them come. I'm a bike cop at the time, bicycle. So I'm like, this is way beyond anything I've ever dealt with, but can I hang and help? And they're like, yeah, sure, learn. Cool. So I stay, learn. They had a bunch of identity theft stuff in all those folders, but as I'm looking through, I see a list of weapons, and I'm military, so I see these weapons. It's like 249, M60, M4, Mark 19. I mean, we're talking like grenade launcher, and like these are big weapons with prices next to them. I'm like, what in the shit? So I grabbed the list. I tell my NARC guy, I'm like, dude, these are military weapons. Have you ever seen these weapons before? And he's like, no. And so I'm pulling them up on my phone. This is a grenade launcher 203. Sure. This is a Mark 19. This is showing him these guns, 249. And he's like, holy shit. I was like, yeah. He's like, I got to get Homeland. So he calls Homeland. They come. The lady, the girl, she had terminal cancer. She had pancreatic cancer. She had like 6 months to live. She was hometown friends with Aryan guy who got her into transporting meth. That story got to the cartel somehow. The cartel was like, well, fuck, let's use her.
Sure.
Because she's not going to be a witness.
Yes.
So for several, I think at least a month, because her bank account was pretty fat, but she was transporting guns once a week, Oklahoma, Arizona, like everything that surrounded Texas, and including Texas. And I mean, listening to the story, and I'm like, she's full of shit. Like, there ain't no way. White girl hooked up with another white dude, and they got connected to the cartel. No, that doesn't work that way. Cartel don't care. They want money. So, it was true. She showed them a phone picture of a place that she goes to and like a geolocation or something like that. And it was already on Homeland's radar. And they were like, holy shit. She's for real. Like, I was like, get the fuck out of here. So yeah, she was meth, guns, and identity theft of all things. Mm-hmm. The room was scattered, and I'm talking, it was a downtown hotel that like I can't afford.
Sure.
So it was big. It had like its own living room, kitchen, and all of those rooms were just filled with files.
Well, that's how they paid for it, identity theft.
Yeah. So I'm like, holy shit. And yeah, that was my Breaking Bad story, because she, like just in Breaking Bad, he finds out he has cancer, and he's a chemistry teacher.
Okay.
So that's how
there
he
you go.
makes the pure meth.
Gotcha.
So we call the pure stuff Heisenberg.
There you
that
go.
was his little fake name.
All right.
So it is a very plausible story. That's what I'm trying to say.
Gotcha.
Because I lived it.
You have a real life example.
I do. So where was I going with all? Okay, so the meth. There's people that will make the argument that we need to legalize all these narcotics and we won't have this problem. Okay, weed. I'm okay. Me as a cop, I'm okay with that. Go for it. Make it legal. I'm fine. It's already being legalized other places. Hopefully that will knock down any of the traffic and stuff. But when you've got meth and stuff that makes people act crazy,
yes,
I'm not down with these synthetic drugs being legalized. So that's my experience with it. I've never I don't think I've ever gotten in a fight with a person that was just high on weed. But all these other crazy shit, heroin, meth, all that stuff, I have had crazy fights with these people. So, what's your 20 years of experience tell you, sir?
My counterpoint to that would be, I've never arrested anybody through 24 years with the agency I work for who did not start out smoking weed.
Okay.
I've
So you're the gateway
we've
drug
interviewed.
approach.
Well, and people laugh at that, but again, I've never interviewed anybody that said I started out smoking meth, I started out on heroin. None of them.
Yeah.
They always started out smoking weed, and it's a progression. And I'm not saying everyone who smokes weed will end up on heroin or methamphetamine. I'm not saying that. But again, just through my experience, through talking to literally thousands of people, no one has ever told me they started with meth. No one has ever told me they started with heroin. They all start the story with marijuana.
Okay.
And so I'm not for the legalization of marijuana.
Okay.
But that's my opinion.
Yeah.
That's my experience. And that's what when I talk to families, when I talk to college classes, when I talk to children, that's what I tell them.
Yeah.
If the story always begins with weed.
Yeah.
So
from what I have seen, I would say back in the day, yes, weed was usually the culprit, but now it's pharmaceuticals. Getting a hold of parents' pills.
Yes.
Pills have changed all of that for sure.
Yeah, people getting bars and all that. So, I mean,
yes,
that is, and now they're mixing fentanyl and shit that looks like a legit drug.
It's
And
fentanyl.
Yeah.
Fentanyl has changed everything in the last several years because you get a pill and it looks like the pills that come out of the bottle from the pharmacy, just to the untrained eye. But yeah, I mean, they're being made in a crack house on the east side of a metroplex.
Yep.
Just
I like you picked east side. I work on east side.
There's that
on a side.
There's
it's usually
the examples I have just from my personal experience have been on the east side.
Okay.
So you hit a house and they're selling your choice of drugs in the front, people in and out all day, and in the back room they've invested in a pill press and they've got Joe the junkie back there literally pressing pills. There's no consistency. There's no uniformity.
Quality control.
Yeah, quantity control is terrible. And I mean, literally, there's fentanyl powder. There's fentanyl powder everywhere, and they're just back there just pressing thousands of pills at a time. And that's the issue with fentanyl is you put 10 pills in front of me, you don't know which one has more fentanyl than the other ones. 9 of them could have a normal dose of fentanyl, which isn't going to kill you, but the 10th one has 3 times as much fentanyl, and that's the one that's going to kill you. And that's the problem. You don't know what you're getting. You don't know who made it. And the reality is, if they saw the setup in the back of the crack house and they saw, you hope that most people, that would be enough to get them to stop. Unfortunately, addicts don't care, and the pull, the internal pull to get high overrides the logical thinking. And, they don't care about who made it. They want to get high. And, it's just sad.
I'm addicted to bangs. Like, I'm not joking. I woke up this morning and I have a thing. I will drink coffee all day long. I like drinking coffee. I prefer it over drinking these things. But when it starts to get hot in Texas, I can't drink a hot drink.
Yes.
And holy shit, this works a lot faster than a cup of coffee does. So I have gotten myself to the point where I woke up this morning and I was about to make a cup of coffee. I was like, oh, it's warm. I don't feel like coffee. I'm going to drive all the way to the gas station just to get one of these stupid things. That's an addiction to me. Like, I just made a trip to go get this stuff So
You do.
it's a it's funny. It's a good comparison.
Right.
And when you talk about the strong addiction products like the pharmaceuticals and heroin and meth, especially, it's very strong addictive quality to it.
But that's the thing. Fentanyl it's changed everything, and the people who never would do heroin. You talk to methamphetamine addicts, and they would say, yes, I use methamphetamine, but I'm not a heroin junkie, right? I mean,
Right.
It's like they're too good for that.
Yeah.
But now with these fentanyl pills, your regular methamphetamine user is turning to fentanyl, first of all, because it's so cheap, and the high, but it's really sad.
Yeah.
It's just really sad.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Your specialty, without getting too specific, obviously.
My specialty. I don't know that I have a specific specialty.
Oh,
I guess.
you've got something you're better at than the rest. All
I
do.
typically work cases that I work a lot of narcotics cases too.
Okay.
Narcotics cases, firearms cases. I work a lot of just kind of violence in general.
Okay. So firearms.
Mhm.
If you've got a specialty in firearms, something specifically I want to know about for myself is these new 3D printed guns.
Right.
What is that like right now? Is that becoming a nightmare?
It's crazy. Sure.
Are they functional?
Yes, they are. I mean, some of them, obviously it depends on how well they're made.
I was gonna say, the only ones I've ever seen, they break into a million pieces. That's what it's like a one-time fire.
And there's a huge influx of like Glock switches and
Yes.
auto sears and things that are being made from 3D printers. And
So
so that's kind of changed the
let's
landscape of that too.
Let's explain what the switch is.
Sure.
So-
I mean, it's, they're being made on 3D printers. Some are made out of metal. Well, they used to all be made out of metal, but now with 3D printers, people will make them on out of plastic, and they're made to go onto a pistol to change it from a semi-automatic pistol into a fully automatic
Yeah, they shoot.
gun to a machine gun.
Yeah, it shoots a 17 round mag. I've seen them
Mm-hmm.
in a second. It's like the whole damn mag's gone. I'm like, holy shit. And what I've noticed, you tell me if you've seen the same thing. The gangs that I've seen represent, like, it's like a fashion statement with, like it would be with shoes.
Right. It's trendy.
It's trendy. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's trendy. It's cool to have them. With the advent of the 3D printed ones, you can get them in specific colors,
yes.
right? You can get them. They're cheap.
Yeah.
And they're easy to find and
Easy to put on the gun.
They're easy to apply. Yeah. And so now your Glock you did have to pull the trigger 17 times to shoot 17 rounds. You pull it once and you burn through a magazine like that.
Yeah. I've watched some demonstrations of some instructors showing the capabilities of them. And, you're talking about a trained instructor and they have a hard time handling it.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, holy shit. Now I've got a 12-year-old kid. We found a 12-year-old kid with one on a Glock. And I'm like, have you even fired this thing? You don't even know what you're going to get into the first time you pull the trigger.
Yeah, it's going to rise up on you. It's going to zipper. It's just that's what it does. It's hard to control.
If you don't have a firm grip, is it going to stop? I don't know. I don't know if it will stop. So that's the danger of putting these things on the weapons.
Yeah. So I mean, the increase in those is crazy.
So how are we dealing with these 3D printed things? Like not just the accessories, but like the actual weapons themselves. Because I think that is now what they're actually calling ghost guns.
Well, that and what people are making from, from flats, from partials. People are making, guns that aren't serialized, right, and aren't coming through.
They're piecing a real gun together.
Correct.
Oh.
Not just 3D printed guns, but you can buy 80% lowers, and then you can manufacture, a firearm, and it doesn't have the same markings, and it isn't as traceable, and it isn't, So
holy cow,
it's like making cars without VIN numbers,
right?
So there's.
Okay.
That's why they're ghost guns, because they're hard to track. Hard to track where they're coming from, hard to track.
I remember
where they've
originally
been.
ghost gun came from some politician. He's like, they got the ghost guns out there. And I'm like, that's not a thing. But now I keep hearing it again.
It's
I'm like,
stuck, yeah.
I'm like, are people bringing that back? Like, that's not a thing. And now I found out it was to do with the 3D printed guns.
Yeah, in different parts of the country, there's a huge market for it. There are ghost guns in Texas, and there's still a market for it in Texas, but in other places, especially places that have more gun control, states that have more restrictions on what you can buy and where you can buy it, things like that. Places. Then
I'll say it, Chicago.
That's kind of the workaround, right? That's So then there's an influx of these guns that don't have markings.
Yeah. Now I'm wondering, what are the prices going for those? Are they selling them cheaper because it's easy to make, or is it expensive because we're giving you something you shouldn't be having?
Yeah, I think they're more expensive because they're a hotter commodity.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
Supply and demand, and there's a demand for them, so people are going to charge you more.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty interested in the in the gun stuff. That's pretty neat. Because I don't have a lot of experience. We get guns off the street all the time,
sure,
but they're stolen and they're traceable.
Right.
Or you can see the serial numbers been terribly tried to be, scratched off.
Sure.
Very rarely do I come across a gun where I'm like, holy cow, they really took their time and got rid of it. Like most of the time it's just like they used the screwdriver. Yeah. I'm like, that's terrible, guys. But when we're dealing with guns, it's a serious crime. Like drugs are a serious crime too. It's a felony. We know that. Much more prevalent to find dope than it is to find guns. It's for cops. So if you're listening, like especially city cops like me, guns is the jackpot. When you get a gun off the street, there's no better feeling other than catching like a pedophile.
Right.
So you get a gun off the street, like that's a big deal. And at your level, federal agency, and the federal agencies I've dealt with when it comes to getting guns, they don't just deal with getting a pistol off the street. They're talking massive amounts of guns.
Yeah.
So when you guys are getting these large quantities of guns, like what is is it cartel stuff mostly? Or gang?
It runs the gamut, really. It can be, obviously guns are a tool of the trade of narcotics dealers, right? And
that's why you guys are a match.
And people are protecting their protecting their drugs, protecting their business, protecting the money. But gangs are the same way. It's a tool of the trade for gangs. There are people, there's all kinds of different scenarios where you're going to find a large amount of guns, whether you have somebody who's selling them illegally, somebody who's stealing them, and then, selling them, or arming a gang or arming other people with them, whether you have gang members who have them and use them in acts of violence. It kind of runs the full spectrum of people.
What's the craziest gun you've run across?
Gosh, that's a hard question.
Any like crazy military? AKs, M4s, but I
we see
that.
Grenade launchers and 50 cals and things like that sometimes. Yeah,
what?
Again, or machine guns,
Grenade launchers. Yeah. Holy shit. I've seen it on a list. I've never seen it I've seen it in the military. I see that all the time. It's not a big deal. But I've never seen it in civilian.
They're not easy to come by, thankfully.
Oh,
right?
How pissed would the bad guy be?
The people are looking for them.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, shit, if I could have one, I'd have one. Why not? You never know.
Yeah.
You never, this is Texas. That's why, you got to protect the Republic. So, but okay. So a grenade launcher, that's nuts. I have heard of people coming across live grenades in the field, which it's always like one, like somehow they stole it or got it from somewhere that they shouldn't have. But, just curious. People like hearing that stuff. Like they don't like hearing it happening here, but hearing those stories, like you said, true crime. That's really what you're talking about right now.
Sure.
What's really going on out there. So I think it's important for people to realize that people like you are pulling grenade launchers, fully automatic machine guns. And when we're talking machine guns, we're talking the big guys, like the Rambo shit, right?
Sometimes, yeah. But like we were talking about, like Glock switches.
Well, the Glock, yeah.
Those are machine guns now.
Right.
So
Yeah. But he shoots little baby bullets. They don't hurt as much.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Little 9 mils.
That's what they say, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Man, that's crazy. All right. Okay. So guns. I mean, you dabble in the narcotics world and stuff like that
Sure.
as well.
It all goes together.
Yeah.
Right.
But, and I'm sure when you get big busts, if there's a kilo laying around, there's a gun laying around.
There's always guns around, though.
And money.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, seizure wise, what's the biggest? Hey, y'all, Eric Levine, 2 Cops, 1 Donut. I got to tell you about my new sponsor, Peregrine. Yeah, like the Falcon. Peregrine is an advanced data analytics platform for public safety. Peregrine builds technology that transforms the way people and entire organizations interact with their data for decision-making and operations. The platform empowers department personnel to create and implement effective strategies, make informed decisions in critical moments, and protect their communities. Peregrine revolutionizes data integration by transforming, cleaning, and extracting meaningful connections between data from dozens of previously siloed systems. Its user-friendly tools, applications, and data visualizations enable personnel, from chiefs to investigators to analysts and patrol officers, to access crucial information and insights in the format, timeframe, on the device, including mobile, that they require. Additionally, Peregrine delivers real-time, tailored insights and context to staff both in headquarters and in the field, allowing law enforcement officers to proactively address emerging situations, stay ahead of potential threats, and make better long-term operational decisions that impact both officers and the communities they serve. Discover more at peregrine.io. That's peregrine.io. And make sure you tell them 2 Cops, 1 Donut sent you.
What's the biggest?
Come on, you know that off the top of your head. Don't play with me.
No, so I have to answer that like for the office, right?
Well, it's a team effort.
Absolutely. It's not just one person. And, the biggest one probably was within the last 18 months.
Oh.
Started with a local officer.
Yeah. Well, of course, we do patrol. All the real work.
Absolutely, right? And I think it was 300 kilos of meth. Started with an officer
Holy shit.
in a stolen car. The guy ran into a warehouse, and in the warehouse was 300 keys of meth.
He snitched on his own people.
Well, he didn't mean to. He just ran.
By proxy.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So, that's the biggest one like that. The biggest, we've had people, there've been several times we've had people bring $1 million to a drug deal thinking they're picking up narcotics from an undercover.
In cash?
Cash money, yeah.
So tell me the truth. I've heard this. I've never seen it in person, but it's always underwhelming. Like you expect all this stacked up cash and it ends up being like a little briefcase full and you're like, oh.
Well, I can tell you we received a tip one time. This was years ago on a Saturday night. I'm at dinner with my wife and got a tip that there was a tractor trailer in Arlington that had $1 million in it, and that someone was going to be picking up the money within like the hour. Made some calls, got people out there, watched a guy unload 2 rolling suitcases from the cab of the tractor, put him in a van, got a patrolman to make a stop, search, and there was like 1.1 million in cash in just 2 regular rolling suitcases.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All ones or like?
No. 20s, hundreds. Yeah,
because you guys have to count it. Somebody, you're high up now. You don't have to.
Well,
somebody's got to.
The agency I work for, our policy is we don't count money, so it's bagged and tagged on scene, and then is later taken to a bank where they do an official count.
Oh, okay. Then they got all the machines for it.
Absolutely right, because a bunch of cops could never all count $1 million and come up with the right amount, right?
They didn't hire me for my math skills.
Absolutely. It would never come out. I know a lot of departments count
17,
the money.
18. Wait,
but
shit, where was I?
Somebody interrupts you, and then
exactly.
you're like, I got started.
So yeah, but yeah, it's, money. It's
holy shit.
It's a lot.
That is a lot.
It's a lot of money.
Are they tracking their money? Like, you know what I mean? Like I'd put an Apple tracker in that shit at least if I was.
Oh yeah.
As a dope person, like
absolutely. They track loads, whether it's money or dope.
Yeah.
We're finding that a lot more trackers, the little Apple
AirTag.
AirTag.
Yeah, that's an AirTag. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, when I started 24 years ago, we didn't worry about things like that. But now they have load vehicles with microphones in them, so they can
they know
can
right
listen.
away.
They can listen. Yeah, I mean it's crazy.
Yeah. We're always behind the curve.
We are absolutely, but they have the cartels have the money, and they have figured out how to protect their investment.
Yeah, yeah. Strategically, like they're stacked. People don't give the cartel enough credit, but they're militarily and technology wise, they are.
Well, because money's not an object, right? I mean, that's the thing that always hurts us, law enforcement, the government, because we have budgets, we have rules that we have to follow to spend money, and nothing is easy, and the cartel does not work, or your normal dope dealer doesn't work within those parameters.
Right.
It's just money. They just spend it, and
you keep hitting that down.
I know. I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Punch you right in the face.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
It's not a big deal. I told you.
I talk with my hands.
I do too. Yeah, it's a pain. We were discussing like the etiquette for. I'm like, feel free to move the mic, do whatever you got to do, all that stuff, and I was
Just
like,
don't hit it.
I said, well, the one thing is like, if you're like me, I had to learn to sit still, and I keep my hands out here now, and the other thing I had to do is get this because all of our voices would bounce off of the wood table. And so I was like, I just got a moving blanket and kind of.
It's fancy.
Yeah. It was $30 on Amazon, so it's not too fancy. But okay. So I think we've kind of covered what y'all do.
Yes.
Specifically, kind of because here's some of the things, guys. I don't want to give away any trade secrets by any means with the way that they're crime fighting these days, but it is fun to hear about the big busts. What about for you? What's the biggest thing you guys have hit with guns specifically? Other than the grenade launcher you got.
That's a
like,
hard
did you guys
question.
find like a warehouse full of freaking guns or anything like that?
We have. Yeah.
Okay. That's cool.
Those things
That's the way
exist,
people
yeah.
want to. Okay.
Yeah.
We're trying to inspire people to want to get into this profession that nobody wants to get into anymore. So when they hear like that you're out there making a big difference, like by knocking down, you find a trunk full of guns, you find a warehouse full of guns, you find, a semi truck full of guns, whatever it is, like people like to hear that type of thing. So I'm just curious, like, was there something you were on the ground for and you're like, holy shit, like we hit the jackpot?
How about the truck going to Mexico?
Yeah, I mean, there's again, because there's a lot of different scenarios with that. I mean, there's storage buildings, warehouses where
Okay.
people are holding large loads of guns, whether it's guns that they've acquired to go to Mexico or guns that they've acquired to.
Are you talking
To
like
sell?
a self-storage place? Stuff like that?
Sometimes, I mean, sometimes more like a warehouse, kind of industrial area.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, the self-storage things for property crimes, what I do, God, they're a jackpot for finding stuff. But some self-storage places are way better for us than others. There's some
Sure.
that you get there and they have a camera for the entrance and that's it. And you're like,
right.
and it's black and white still. And I'm like, come on, guys, you're not even trying. Like people pay,
Do better.
people pay all this money for this storage and you guys have been broken into like 18 times in the past 3 months. We can't catch them.
Yeah.
I can't be here the whole time. You guys got to do better. Like I would, if I'm paying for you, I would get rid of y'all. Like you're not doing anything with the money except hoarding it. And some of them just don't give a shit. Don't care.
Yeah, they don't care.
Yep. Come back with a warrant if you want the video. I'm like, it's your customer that got stolen from. Like, you
Right.
don't want to help them? Are you in on this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We had a case years ago where they were in on it.
Oh yeah. I've had
They
several.
lived, a family lived there on premises running it, and they had an adult son that lived there, and he would, he learned how to go through the ceilings and hop, room to
into the
room,
units?
down into the units
Oh,
and steal what he
shithead.
wanted and stuff.
Really?
Yeah. So,
Oh. That drives me. There's nothing. Okay, you guys get this satisfaction part, like getting that big bust. That's awesome. Like for me, there's nothing more satisfying in what I do than giving somebody their property back. Like it's such a, because they most of the time do not think that will ever happen. I had a lady, Hispanic family. Only the kids spoke English type thing, but they had a necklace from the Pope that was like a family heirloom.
Okay.
Like popes before you and I were alive. That's how, and it was on the wall. And whoever broke into the house also stole that. And I didn't find anything else, but I did find that necklace through pawn searches and ended up finding it at a pawn shop and went and grabbed it and may or may not have went through all the paperwork process to get it back to them immediately. But it was
Sure.
yeah, that was probably one of the more satisfying things because to them it wasn't just, I mean, one, it was a religious item to them, but two, it was like it's been passed down through the family, so it's like a protection thing for them. So it was pretty cool. That was
Something like that, or even just, I mean, people work hard for
yeah,
their stuff, right?
Right.
You've worked, you've
Yeah.
spent your money on stuff, and then when it's
Yep.
taken from you,
yeah, we
that's
just
huge if you can get that back from people.
we just got it. We have several undercover cars, but one of them is just a truck, and we filled the truck up with lawn equipment from a guy who runs his own lawn business, small company type thing, and he can't do his job without that stuff. We had it back within 48 hours. Not the best results, but most optimal.
Still, yeah.
But just the fact that he didn't have to go out and get that new equipment,
Yeah, you put him back to work.
put him back to work.
Feeding his family.
I think he said he went out and got a lawnmower and a weed whacker. But now that he got all his stuff back, he's like, I just have a couple extra items. I didn't have to go replace everything. So
Sure.
he could put his guys back to work, and it was pretty cool. I like that stuff. I like helping the small business guys, and I kind of get the idea now that I do this because this is out of my own pocket. So, but it's doing well, and I think it's a good transition for the other reason why you guys came here. Supporting small businesses, nonprofits, things of that nature. So you guys have a nonprofit. I'm just making sure I read it correctly. The Richard Martinez Cancer Fund. Correct. Okay. There's a story behind this, what it is. So I would like whoever would like to run this story. Tell me what it is, what's it about, and why you do it.
So Richard Martinez was a Fort Worth police officer. He was then hired by a federal agency, right? One of the 3-letter agencies, the one I work for. I met Richard originally in 1999. When I arrived at the drug task force I work on, he taught me how to work narcotics. We became very good friends. He eventually was hired by the 3-letter agency, right? And in 2009, Richard would tell you he woke up with cancer. Woke up, had blood in his urine, went to the hospital, found out he had kidney cancer. One of his kidneys was encapsulated with the tumor, and within maybe 3 days had his kidney taken out. Unfortunately, well, let me say this. At the time, the doctors told him, hey, if you have to have cancer, like this is the cancer you want. Like the survival rate, the 5-year survival rate is like 95%. Okay. So if you have to have cancer, hey, you got the good one, right? Unfortunately, the doctor who did his surgery to remove his kidney botched the surgery, and within several months, the cancer had spread throughout his body. So the type of cancer he had, I'm looking at Melanie. The type of cancer he had was
Renal clear cell carcinoma.
Renal clear cell carcinoma. Okay, I didn't want to say it wrong. That type of cancer does not respond to normal radiation chemotherapy treatments. So Richard was referred to UT Southwestern in Dallas and started on a regiment of experimental drugs. And so the way the foundation started, we actually found out, I was thinking about this on the way here, we actually found out that Richard had sold his tractor to pay for some of his medical expenses, and that his wife, Richard had a surgery, and his wife was push mowing 2 acres.
Oh.
And we found out about it, just some of the guys he worked with. And within like 3 hours, we raised like $1,200 to buy a riding mower, right? That's kind of how it started. So we we get the money, we buy a riding mower, we take it, so she's not having to push mow the yard, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I'll interject just because of what happened during his initial surgery when they took out the kidney. There's ways to do that where they bag it internally and then pull it out in the bag so that the cancer cells don't get free in the body. And so that's not how it was done. And so as a result, like Brian said, the cancer cells spread and got into his bloodstream and into his organs. But he went from having a 95% 5-year survival rating to a 5%. So it flipped on him, and then now suddenly in 90 days after that surgery, he's being told you have a 5% survival rate. And so because it doesn't respond to traditional chemo and radiation, he was then put through a series of experimental, trials and drugs and things. And that's what was costing so much money, which led to what you're talking about.
So, several months later, within a year of the initial diagnosis, we're having a conversation, Richard and I and another police officer that's a friend, and he tells us that the experimental drugs are so expensive that he's not able to pay his mortgage. And so he's made the decision to stop the medicine, stop the treatments, because he has to pay his mortgage. He says, I can't leave my family without a house. He had decided, he understood that the cancer was probably going to take his life at some point. And he said, I can't leave my family homeless. And we just decided we just could not let that happen. So we got together with some lawyers that worked with my mom, and an accountant that worked with it was the spouse of another police officer on the task force. And we formed the nonprofit organization, the Richard Martinez Cancer Fund. At the time, we were singularly focused to raise money to help Richard. And, that was our focus. That was our desire. And that's what we did. Of course, as the years have gone on, we have been told by the attorneys that the IRS will not let you have a nonprofit organization that benefits one sole person. So the way that it is written, the Richard Martinez Cancer Fund pays the cancer-related medical expenses for law enforcement officers who are battling cancer.
Oh, okay.
So that's from day one, that's how it was written. But truth of the matter, day one, it was all about raising money to help Richard.
Yeah.
Richard was an amazing man. His Fort Worth PD brethren loved him. The people he worked with at the federal agency loved him. And so getting people to support the foundation was easy. We, for 6 years, we raised money once a year by throwing a golf tournament. We would also, at the golf tournament, we have a gun raffle where we raffle off firearms, and we were very successful. We, in fact, got to the point, I believe, in 2015. So the first golf tournament was in 2010. I think the last golf tournament at that time was 2015. And we had raised so much money. The bank account had so much money in it. We felt bad asking people for money.
That's the cop in you.
Which is crazy, right? Yeah. And so we went to Richard and just said, look, we've got plenty of money. At that time we were paying his expenses. We would pay for, his medical, we would pay for treatments, experimental medicine, surgeries, scans, medications, anything associated with his cancer, we paid.
Yeah.
And, he was appreciative. He actually felt bad sometimes.
That's the cop in him.
That's definitely the cop in him.
Yep.
We used to have to beg him to bring us the bills, but, listen, God blessed us, and we had a conversation in 2015 where we said, look, we don't feel comfortable asking people for money any longer because we have so much in the bank.
Yeah.
And so we made a decision. We said, all right, here's the deal. We're not going to throw another golf tournament until we need more money. So, and I made the statement, we can throw a golf tournament in 60 days if we have to. We've done this so many times. We can do one in 60 days if we have to. And of course, that statement came back to I don't want to say bite me, but I had to eat those words later. So,
in 2015, by the time we got to that point, like anybody that's dealing with cancer would know, there's good seasons and bad seasons. And so Richard had some bad seasons where he was in the hospital a lot, having multiple surgeries, having parts of his body removed, having things done as a result of the cancer. So some years more money was being expended. And then there were other seasons through there where he was doing pretty well. And so he was just kind of doing treatment, but wasn't having hospitalizations, wasn't having surgeries. And 2015 was kind of one of those times where things had been going well for a little while. And so there was enough money to cover what he needed. And so, like Brian said, we felt like, okay, we don't want to keep asking people for money just to have it in case. And that if things changed and we started going through what was left, to pay his bills, then we could throw another golf tournament. And in those years too, we were not just paying Richard's bills, we were paying, helping other officers as well. Like Brian said, Richard was the primary focus, right? That's why we started it. But there were other needs that came to our attention, and a lot of what we do is based on relationships, and it's based on people who know about the Cancer Fund, who then say, hey, I work with a guy, I know a lady, whatever, and so we were helping other people along the way in that 2010 to 2015 time period, but it was mostly golf tournaments, things focused on Richard's needs, but we've paid some funeral expenses during that time for officers that died as a result of their cancer, paid for other treatments and things. But yeah, we made the decision in 2015 that we were going to kind of hold off with raising any more money until we needed to. But then we were continuing to still pay for Richard's expenses and that of some other officers.
Okay.
So, in 2019, towards the end of 2019, I think in November, Richard passed away from 11 years of just cancer and treatments, surgeries. His quality of life at the end was terrible, but he never gave up fighting. Richard, so he lived on the west side of the Metroplex, worked on the east side of the Metroplex. And, there was a long time where he would get up and he would drive to work, and they had a couch in an office that nobody used, and he would take a nap. Then he would get up and he would work for a few hours, and then he would go take a nap. And then he would get up and he would work for a few more hours, and then he would take a nap, and then he would drive home. And throughout this whole time, the whole time he had cancer, he never stopped putting people in jail. And no one worked harder, and no one arrested more people, more high-level criminals than Richard. And he's walking around with terminal cancer. And it was really an inspiration to all of us. And there's a story, I tell the story a lot. He was in the hospital, he had some major surgery, and they told him, you're going to be off for like a month before you can go back to work. And it was like a week and a half later, and he's back at work. And I got on him, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, go home, heal, spend time with your family, like take it easy. Like, you know, our agency was very good to him. You know, they really were really good to him. And I remember he looked at me and he said, you know, look, I don't want to sit at home. He said, because when I'm sitting at home, I'm thinking about dying. And he said, when I'm at work, I'm thinking about putting people in jail. And I just made the decision right then, you know, I'm never going to get on him again about working, because he would work 7 days a week, 12, 14, 16 hours a day. And he's walking around with terminal cancer, you know, and again, his quality of life at the end was terrible. You know, he had a colostomy bag and he carried around a gallon Ziploc bag full of medications he would take. So he would, when he would bring me bills, he would call me and I would meet him down on the street outside of our building, and he would just hand me just a fistful of medical bills, right? And I got in his car one day to get the bills, and on the floor was this gallon-sized bag just crammed full of prescriptions. And then there was a small cooler that had an ice pack in it with medicine in it. And of course I'm asking, like, what is all this? And he's like, that's what y'all pay for, you know? And I took it out. I took it out of the car and I threw it all on the hood and I took a picture of it. And, you know, at the next golf tournament, I showed the picture to people like, hey, listen, you want to know what we're doing? This is what we're paying for. You know, look at this bag of medicine. Look at this cooler with this experimental medicine that has to stay cool, that he takes with him everywhere he goes. You know, that's what we did. And again, our supporters, the people that support the Richard Martinez Cancer Fund, are very faithful and loyal people. Mm-hmm. You know, we have individuals, we have officers, we have, you know, professionals who own businesses. Our biggest supporters, to be honest with you, are defense attorneys. It's crazy. And I won't name them, but it's just, and I'm not naming them not because I don't appreciate them. I'm not naming them because I don't want it to affect their business, right? But, you know, one in particular, you know, I asked him at one of the events, because he's always the first check. We announce an event, the first check we receive is from this man. And so I just asked him one time, I'm like, you know, look, we're really appreciative. We're super, super appreciative. He always sends the largest check, whatever, like the biggest sponsorship that we have, right? You know, there's levels of sponsorship, right?
Yeah.
So whatever the largest level of sponsorship is, he sends that check, and it's the first check we get every time. And so I just ask him, you know, I'm like, look, it's not that I'm not appreciative. I'm super appreciative. But why do you do this? Him? And he said, first of all, I like Richard. Richard's a great guy. And he said, this is just a drop in the bucket of the amount of money Richard's made me over the years. And it's like, okay, you know, but, you know, I will tell you that when we're able to tell people Richard's story, right, it always touches people. You know, we had like I said, we sell firearms raffle tickets. We raffle off guns at all of our events because we're very successful with that, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, listen, Richard was a cop. A lot of our supporters are cops. Cops like guns.
Yeah, we do.
So one of our biggest...
got a rifle sitting right next to me. You can't see.
Yeah. One of our biggest supporters early on was an individual that owned a gun store, and he would donate guns. He would let us buy guns at cost.
Is he out of the Fort Worth area?
He was, yes. He's no longer in business.
Okay, I was going to say,
but
it's not them, is it?
No, it is
HRH?
not.
Okay.
No, but yeah, I mean, the first year we threw the golf tournament, he paid for lunch, right? That was like $2,500. You know, when you're starting, you have no money.
Right.
And how are we going to feed these people this golf tournament, right? So he paid for lunch. He donated like 5 guns, you know, and so if it wasn't for that individual, we would have never gotten off the ground.
Right.
You know, because That's the one thing we've learned through the years is it costs money to raise money.
Yep.
You have to have money to raise money. And it is not cheap to throw an event. Again, from 2010 to 2015, we threw a golf tournament once a year. By the end, we had it down. We knew what to do. We had our supporters. We had it was basically the same group. There was always a few new people, but really we had a core group of people that supported us. They were faithful. They would come to the event. If Richard was healthy enough, he would get up and speak, and we were successful. And so as time has gone on, like I said, Richard passed away in 2019, and truthfully, the cancer fund sat stagnant for a while. Richard didn't have to live through COVID. I'm very appreciative of that, especially with all the medical issues he had. The fact that walking around with terminal cancer, he didn't like to sit at home. COVID would have been awful for him.
Yeah.
So sitting at home and not being able to go to work would have never worked for him.
Right.
So, but the cancer fund sat stagnant for a couple of years, to the point at the end of 2021, we had conversations between ourselves about shutting the fund down, and really decided, all right, this is what we're going to do. We made plans. We're going to reach out to all these departments that have been super supportive through all these years. So that's, Fort Worth, the federal agencies, Mesquite. There's, some departments that were really, really loyal to us. And we thought, we'll find some officers that have cancer. We will figure out how many there are, and we'll divide up the remaining money between them, help pay their bills, and we'll shut it all down. And we reached out to half a dozen local and federal agencies inquiring, hey, do you have any officers with cancer? And there were none. It was crazy. We couldn't believe it.
There were none. There were either none, or there were some that were in stages of fighting cancer where they really didn't have a need. They didn't have any bills. They might have cancer, but their,
insurance was
their
doing its job.
insurance is covering it, or they're not. They just don't really have the need. Because it's one thing with the cancer fund. I mean, we don't just give the money we raise to any of our beneficiaries. Like just, here's a check for $5,000, $10,000. That's what some charities are set up in that manner.
Right.
And that's not how we're set up. We're set up to pay
Bills.
the bills. So most of the bills we pay directly, to the hospital, to the doctor, whatever. There's some things that people pay out of their pocket that we reimburse, co-pays and parking, things like that,
Right.
You have to pay when you're there. And then we reimburse those with receipts and things, so that we have the documentation. But yeah, in 20, I guess it was really the end of 21, we decided after Richard had passed that we would give it at least a year for the residual bills to come in to take care of those, because, often you don't get those bills for 6-9 months, a year sometimes. So we were waiting for the rest of the bills for any other expenses. And then honestly, we kind of just procrastinated and didn't close it. And we're kind of, what do we do? Trying to make some decisions about it. And I think it was late 21. We, like Brian said, we reached out and we couldn't find anybody in those agencies that had the need that we could pay some of their bills with the remaining money. So we made a decision at that point that we would just wait, and we felt like there will come a point in time where we'll know what to do with this money, that, whether doors will be open, somebody will come to our attention. And we kind of just held off again in late 21. And then probably in March of 22, one of the guys, a guy in my office, a young guy that I think at the time he was 38, 39, diagnosed with cancer. And, it was a gut punch, somebody that young, and you're everybody's kind of reeling from it and learning about it. And he had a couple initially an emergency surgery right away. And I came home and I was telling Brian about it. And to be honest, like the cancer fund didn't even enter my mind because it had just kind of been sitting there. And so I was telling him about it, and, this guy's young, has young children, a wife, and, this is going to be difficult. And Brian was like, Melanie, we have the money in the cancer fund sitting there. We need to cover his bills. And like I said, it hadn't even crossed my mind at that point. But then it was like, oh man, this is what we're supposed to do. This is what that money's there for. And it's sitting there. And so within a day, I think we reached out to them and went over to the house and just said, hey, this is what we want to do. That's what this money's for. That's what people donated it for. And Richard told us before he passed away that that's what he wanted us to do, to carry it on. It helped him and his family so much that that's what he wanted, to use the money to help other people. And like Brian said, I think all of us, it's hard. We all want to help, especially by our nature, by what we do as law enforcement officers, right? We want to help people, but it's really difficult to be on the receiving end of that help. And so, even Richard would say to us sometimes, like, use that money to help other people. I'm okay. And it's like, well, no, this is what we're doing. This is why. And so we get that response from a lot of people, like, there's other people that need it, not me. Don't spend the money on me. But it's not need based. I mean, we don't ask people for, financial affidavits, and we don't inspect what are you spending your money on.
Right.
Our focus is very narrow. We're going to pay your medical bills so that you don't have to, because we don't want people to ever be in a position that Richard was in, to have to choose between paying your mortgage and paying for something that can save your life. I mean, or at least prolong your life. That's an awful position to be in, and we don't want people in that position. And so if we can help by paying those bills, then that's what we want to do. So, and like I said, in March of 22, we kind of started things back up because there was this immediate need. And since then, in the, I guess 15 months since then, we currently have 6 different beneficiaries that we're helping, which is more than we've ever been able to help at any one time. And so it's just kind of been incredible how it's blown up. Unfortunately, there's a huge need. But at the same time, we've been fortunate enough to be able to help that many people at one time.
Are you guys running all this, just you two?
There's a 3-person board.
Okay.
And you're looking at 2 of them, right? And
a little bit of nepotism.
There's a third lady that helps us, named Dina. Dina is the 3rd member of the board. The original officer that started it with me, it was he and I, and then we had a 3rd buddy that was a state trooper that got on with this because we knew we could trust him, that he would not take the money out of the account, but we've basically really since 22, about March of 22, the focus, everything has transitioned. Prior to that, the focus was always Richard, right? Listen, we helped, I want to say this, between 2010 and 2019, we helped 3 other officers with expenses. Actually, that's not true. We helped 4 other officers with expenses. But the focus was always Richard, right? The focus was always making sure we had money to pay for Richard.
Right.
And, and we were successful, we successfully paid for every medication, experimental treatment, scan, hospital stay. We were able to pay for his funeral expenses. So, we felt like we fulfilled what we wanted, what we set out to do from the very, very beginning. We fulfilled that, but in like March or April of 22, the focus has changed. The focus now is we're trying to help as many officers as we can that are going through this struggle through the diagnosis of cancer. And our focus is very narrow. We want to pay the medical expenses. Like she said, we don't just write them a check. Hey, here's $5,000. Do with it as you please. They give us receipts. They give us the bills. We write the checks. We want to ease the financial burden so that, listen, they have to worry about fighting cancer. They have to worry about how they're going to how they're going to live. We don't want them to worry about the money part of it. And so that's what we try to do. We try to step in and take over the financial burden for them so that that's something they don't have to worry about.
A lot of people don't even realize the financial burden. Obviously, when you're first diagnosed with cancer, very few people think, what's this going to cost me? Right? They're thinking, am I going to live? Am I going to die? You're faced with your own mortality very quickly. You're faced with, surgeries, treatments. What does my life look like? What about my family? There's an emotional, physical, psychological burden that comes with a cancer diagnosis. And most people don't think about the financial burden until much further down the road, till the bills start rolling in, right? I mean, when you're talking about something that can take your life, most people are willing to do anything that they can, right? They're willing to pay whatever that is. And as law enforcement officers, unless you're working for a department that you're only part-time and you don't have benefits, right? But most of us have health insurance. We have good benefits, and health insurance pays a good part of that, but there's still a financial burden. And I read a statistic the other day that said that an average cancer, average, I don't even know what that means, but the average cancer diagnosis generally cost a person between $40,000 and $80,000 a year. And that's crazy. I mean, most people don't have a spare $40,000, $80,000 a year, and obviously, like I said, there's all kinds of ups and downs with the cancer diagnosis, right? You have some years that are going to cost you a lot more money than other years. But often when we talk to people, when we establish new beneficiaries, it's usually, we try to at the beginning of, once there's a new cancer diagnosis. And a lot of those people, like I said, are like, well, they're a little hesitant. Well, we'll kind of see how things go, may or may not take you up on it. And, people are different in how they approach this. Some people don't like other people to know that they're receiving benefits from the cancer fund. And some people are screaming it from the rooftops because they're thankful for it, and they want other people to know. But, we have people that give us $1.25 receipts, and we have people that say, well, we just want to give you the big ones. But even the $1.25s, they add up,
Right.
when you're paying $10 to park and a $30 copay, and you've got, 20 different doctor's visits in a 2-week period. Well, that adds up, and it takes money out of your pocket to do that. So we try to take that burden away so that if you haven't thought about the financial ramifications, you don't have to. Just let us take care of that. Send us your bills and
yeah. And it's hard because you're talking about cops. We help. We don't take the help.
Absolutely.
We're very proud. We're very proud people.
In doing this, I started out with a $2,000 budget. That's me and the wife had talked, and that was what we agreed to on an idea. And the idea was just to help, the whole premise was to bridge the gap through education and humanizing. So that quickly snowballed, basically. And I got to the point where I would say I was where I wanted to be, let's say, as far as how everything was and the way it was formatted. And I was learning a lot. And, but I got to the point as well as where I was like, oh my God, this is cost me a lot of money, and it isn't stopping. because now there's monthly expenses
Sure.
that I didn't account for. I thought you could just put this stuff out there. I didn't realize that you can't. You literally have to pay for services to have this stuff go out. And not to mention you got to pay for software to edit everything and just a bunch of costs I didn't expect. So I had to get to the point where I was like, I got to ask for a sponsor or sell stuff. That's what I first did. I was like, let me make some stickers. Let me get some stickers made. I'll try to sell those and just say it's like a fundraiser, which was hard for me to do in the first place. And I realized very quickly that is not I don't like doing it like at all. It is not me. And luckily, just like you guys found, cops are very supportive of other cops. And even if they made, jokes about the podcast, they still helped me out. So it had a lot of good peer support. So it kind of got me over the hump, but I had to finally swallow my pride and ask. Like, I had a buddy who's gotten sponsors before, and I had to go and ask for sponsors, and I hated every minute of it. And I probably didn't even come across the right way. Like, I don't want to do this, but
Right.
I'm looking for sponsorship. I'm sure y'all went through the same stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. No one likes asking people to help them,
Yeah.
right?
But you're doing it for somebody else.
Absolutely.
I was doing it for myself,
Sure.
which is even worse.
But it's still hard.
It
It's
is.
not what we do.
Right.
And so going in, you feel like we don't try to put our friends on the spot, right? Personal
Right.
relationships of like, well, hey, you have a business. Will you sponsor this?
Right.
And not everybody wants to do that, and you don't want to impose on people.
Right.
And it's tough to do. We still struggle with it. We, especially at our events, we do it kind of unapologetically because that's what we're here to do.
Right. That's the event.
This is the event. This is what we're here to do.
Yeah.
You signed up to come, so this is what we're
Yeah.
this is what we're here for. And it is easier because it isn't for us personally. It's to help someone else, and often that person, whether it's because people loved Richard or because they love one of our other beneficiaries or because it's just something that's near and dear to them, whether they've had a personal battle with cancer or lost somebody else that they know to cancer.
Yeah.
People generally are very generous, but it's difficult to ask people
Yeah, for sure.
for money.
What is your guys's, how many officers have you helped? How much money, it doesn't necessarily have to be how much you've raised or how much you spent, but like, how successful has it been is basically where I'm going with this.
Well, I think to date, so there's been 11 officers total that we've helped. And like I said, we currently have 6 current beneficiaries, 5 of whom are going through some stage of cancer treatment. And so we've not had to turn anybody down.
Nice.
We've been able to raise enough money to cover all of those expenses, and it's different. We're trying to project now, how much are we averaging per person, and how much, what can we take on? The last thing we want to do is make a commitment to somebody that, hey, we're going to pay your bills, and then have to go back to them 3 months later and say,
We're out of money.
never mind.
Yeah.
We're done doing that. That's not the goal. That's not what we want to do. So really, since we've kind of fired things back up in March of 22, it's taken on a whole life of its own. We started, like I said, back with the guy that was in my office, and very quickly got a call from a guy I used to work with years ago who said, hey, I'm in a new place now, and there's a guy here that has cancer, and can you tell me how to throw a golf tournament? Can you tell me how to do this? Help me.
Yeah.
And we were like, well, we can, but there's really no sense in you reinventing the wheel because we already have this
formula.
nonprofit in
Yeah.
place, and we already can. And so we took on that guy, and then we, have relationships at different departments. And then, like I said, some of those departments are huge supporters of us. One of those departments is Fort Worth Police Department. We've helped numerous officers. Like I said, Richard used to be an officer there. We've helped other officers that are Fort Worth officers. And so people within the department that know what we do have, reached out and said, hey, I've learned of this officer that's going through cancer, and could use some help. And so, we've not had to turn anybody down. I don't know what our capacity is.
Yeah.
We did by last November 1st, we threw a golf tournament. It was the first golf tournament we've thrown in 7 years. But by then we had taken on a number of beneficiaries, and we thought, okay, well, so we don't end up in a position where we have to turn people away or not able to pay bills. Let's go ahead and do another tournament. So we did. And it was a very different tournament than the tournaments we've thrown in the past, a different group of people, different supporters. But that was successful. We sold out the golf tournament. We had 142 golfers. Is that right?
144.
144.
How many teams does that end up being?
So that's 2 teams per hole. That's 36 teams. And, as I said earlier, we do gun raffles, and we have a silent auction. We have a regular golf auction. And so through the years, the golf tournament kind of took on a life of its own. And, or in the early years, we would have 100 golfers, maybe 110. But then we would end up having, early, like 50 more people show up for lunch in the raffles. By the end of it, let's just say this year, the golf tournament we threw November 1st of 22, 144 golfers. We had probably 30 volunteers, but we paid for over 300 lunches. So that means there's over 125 people showing up just for the raffles and mostly the gun raffle. If I'm being honest,
I would be there.
Yeah.
And
guns and whiskey, baby. That's all we need.
And so, listen, that has really, these golf tournaments and gun raffles is how we have raised every penny we've ever had. And that's how we have paid all the bills. As I said earlier, there's 3 of us on the board. We are all 100% volunteer based. None of us has ever received a penny from the foundation. Any money that has not been spent on cancer expenses has been spent to throw a golf tournament. Again, you have to have money to raise money.
Right.
And it's expensive.
Yeah.
But, we have been very successful. We're both Christian people. We believe God has been very faithful to us. And, so we feel very blessed. But we're at a point now with 6 beneficiaries that we have committed to them. We're going to pay their expenses. And, so our biggest fear is at one point not being able to do that.
Right.
So, so we're currently planning another event. Actually, we're currently planning 2 events, but there's one that's much sooner. We're throwing a casino night.
Okay.
A totally different event than we've ever thrown before, which of course has come with its own set of problems and issues that we didn't know about. But I'll let her kind of talk about it because she's really, I'm kind of the mouthpiece of the foundation.
Okay.
But she's really the one that,
the behind the scenes mastermind.
She runs it all, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the truth. Anyone that knows us or knows about the Richard Martinez Cancer Fund knows that she's really the one that gets it done. I'm the one at the events up talking, and raffling off things, but she's really the one doing all the work. So,
okay.
Well, like Brian said, we have a casino night June 24th. It's going to be at Will Rogers Memorial Center in Fort Worth.
Okay.
And so,
oh shit, you're having it at Cowtown, baby.
Yeah. So it's going to be good. We're excited about it. It's kind of one of those
Western themed.
Come as you are.
No,
yeah.
Not black. Definitely not black tie.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Most of the people will show up in boots and jeans.
Yeah.
And
cowboy hats.
We're not trying to make it formal.
Yeah.
By any means.
Yeah, we decided at the very beginning we wanted to make it where people weren't spending money on renting tuxes and evening gowns. I'd rather you come and spend your money there and help us raise money. That's what we're trying to do. I don't want people out $500 on their outfit before they come.
Yeah.
So no, it's been good. Golf tournaments have been our bread and butter. That's how we've raised all this money that we've been able to use. But we have our newest beneficiary is a Fort Worth officer. He's young, 27 years old, and is battling leukemia, and he has a long road ahead of him. So he's been to MD Anderson. He's doing some treatments here. He has a bone marrow transplant coming up that'll cause him to have to be in Houston at MD Anderson for 3 months, a month in the hospital, and all of those things cost money. Being in Houston for 3 months requires an apartment. It requires a place to stay and a home base so that he can be within, a very short distance to the hospital, because he'll have to go up there to be monitored and different things. So, we've pledged that we will take care of those costs for him. He's been with the department right at a year, so he's young. He has limited vacation days and money saved and things like that. And so paying for another place to live for 3 months, paying for a month in the hospital, paying for a bone marrow transplant, all of those things are expensive. So we thought, well, maybe we need to try something different, do a different kind of event. We have another golf tournament planned for October 24th of this year, October 24th, 2023. And, but we thought in the meantime, let's do something different. The idea of casino night came up. It's been interesting to plan. It's good. We've had a great response so far. I think we've sold close to 450 tickets. So we expect a big crowd.
Yeah.
And
is there a bigger potential for profit? I say profit, but fundraising compared to a golf tournament, or is it?
We're going to see, this has all been trial and error since day one. Again, we're cops. We don't know, right?
I know.
Trust me. We're just, we've made mistakes along the way, and we're like, well, we won't do that again. That didn't work. And so, like Brian said, we kind of perfected the golf tournament portion, but you throw a golf tournament, you have to pay the golf course for each golfer, right? And then you have to pay for lunch, and you have to pay for the guns that you're going to raffle, and you have to pay for some raffle prizes. We have a lot of people that donate silent auction items to us, or raffle prizes, or give us a discount on things, which is good, right? If somebody donates a silent auction item, whatever it goes for is profit for the cancer fund. It's instead of, if I pay for a silent auction item, well, I've got to try to make that money back and then, make any money on top of that. So, but there's the golf tournament. It is what it is. There's only so much you can do. And the focus is golf. With 144 golfers this year, it took a long time to get everybody through. We tried to kind of speed the process, but by the time people came in for lunch and raffles and things, it's 3:30 in the afternoon. People are tired. They're ready to go. They're drunk. It's been a long day at the course. So we'll see. With casino night, I think it's going to be different. We don't.
I'm not a gambler, but I'd be very interested to do that, knowing that my money is going towards something. Well, that's what I hate about gambling.
And we try
not getting anything for it.
We try, just like with the golf tournaments. People always say, "Oh, I don't play golf. I don't play golf." So we're like, "Well, come for lunch. Come for the raffles." Yeah. And so it's kind of the same thing for casino night. We have people like, "Oh, I don't gamble, or I don't do that."
I would gamble for that. Yeah.
We're like, that's all right. With the ticket, you get $1,000 in casino money.
Okay.
And so we'll have opportunities if you want to buy in and buy more casino money, you can do that. Which is all that. Any buy-in money comes to us, to the cancer fund. We're going to have live music.
Nice.
Sonny Burgess and Jolie Holiday are going to be there.
Okay.
And then Mike Webb is also performing. So we'll have
Mike Webb. I don't know that name.
Yeah. So he's another local.
I do know
artist.
Sonny Burgess for sure.
Everybody knows Sonny Burgess.
Yeah.
So and listen, Sonny Burgess and Jolie Holiday very much were approached. We didn't approach them. We don't know them, but some people that help us knew them, and approached them and they said, absolutely, we'll be there and we want to donate our time, which is huge.
And this is when again?
It's huge.
June?
June 24th.
June 20th. Oh, shit. That's
So, yeah,
That's
13 days.
2 weeks from
Yeah.
yesterday.
right. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
13 days. So,
Okay. I was going to offer to podcast live and let donors and stuff come in. And I did that for the Brother for the Fallen, but that's too soon.
sorry.
I wouldn't be ready.
Next year.
Next year.
Next year.
Next
let me
year.
know.
Yeah, I think the casino night, we're planning on it becoming an annual event.
Yeah.
Again, it's been different. We have a whole series. We have different people who would not have ever come to a golf tournament that are coming. We have new, I guess, families. It's interesting.
Yeah.
In law enforcement, we all are very much, it's kind of a family
Yeah.
type atmosphere. And when people are in this position, when they're beneficiaries of the cancer fund, when they're going through this, it's a bonding experience.
for sure.
And it's amazing how their families continue to support us and continue to support the cancer fund. Richard's family comes to every event. His wife, his kids, his family, his parents, his siblings. I mean, they're at every event and they're huge. They still are huge supporters, and it's neat to see that. And so as we've taken on other beneficiaries, we've also taken on other families who then come to the events and
I
things. So
Yeah. Short gambling story. I'm not a gambler, for one. Not a traditional gambler. Like, I'll occasionally, if somebody's got squares or whatever, okay, give me one, whatever. But we go to Vegas, me and the wife, and it's a family reunion. I got a family member that lives in Vegas, so we all went out there. I was like, let's go to the Strip. I'll bring $100.
There you go.
I'm willing to lose it. I know I'm going to lose it anyway. I'm mostly going down there for the food. I'm a foodie. Wherever we go, I got to have good food. So we end up eating at the Eiffel Tower thing, which was amazing, by the way. So I've always wanted to play roulette, the wheel thing. So I go there, and Vegas is very accommodating. I'm like, I don't know shit. Can you guys teach me? And they're like, yeah, come in. We'll show you.
we'll show you how we take your money.
Yeah,
Sure,
we'll
no
show you.
problem.
Yeah.
Come on in.
So I'm like, all right, cool. And so I'm like, all right, let me do. I'm gonna go slow. I was like, it's $100. I'm gonna just take my time, have fun with it, and lose it. Like, I was stressed out the entire time. Every time they take my money, I'm like, this is dumb. Why do people do this? Like, I'm getting irritated. I get down to about $30. Meanwhile, there's this dude walking around with just a bunch of chips in his hand. He's holding them like a football, and he just goes to a table and he sets it down, and there's several tables around, and he goes and he puts them on numbers, and then he'll come over to each table as it's about to spin. And I'm like, what? This guy's a fucking pro. Like, and he knows exactly, and he's putting them on different numbers, like several bits. And I'm like, what the shit? And they're letting him. I thought you could only play at one table at a time. I don't know the rules. Still, I don't know the rules, but I'm like, this guy's nuts. And I watch him lose. But he had come by on my table and frickin' won. Was insane. Like, he won a lot of money, apparently. But anyway, my story. When he won, I won. He knows what he's doing. Just put my stuff on his stuff.
There you go.
So he wins. I win. I got my money back up to, I was up $29 and I quit.
There you go.
So
you're a winner.
I left Vegas $29 richer.
That's good.
Yeah, but I hated every minute of it.
But that's what keeps you coming back when you hit
No.
and you get your money back.
Nope.
It's like that one golf shot, right? That's a good golf shot makes up for the other bad ones.
But that's tangible. To me, that's a tangible moment that I can share with people. And I'm out when I golf. I'm usually golfing with friends anyway, and we can bullshit about that later. I'm never going to sit there and bullshit about the $29 that I won in Vegas, because I was miserable the whole time. I'm like, this sucks. But for what you are doing, I get something tangible right away. I'm helping somebody pay their bills.
And it's not really your money you're gambling with, right?
Right.
Because we're going to give you $1,000 in casino money
Yes.
for your purchase of a ticket.
Right.
And then if you want to go buy more, it doesn't cost you dollar for dollar. You're not going
Right.
to buy you're not going to spend $1,000 to get
Get
another
$1,000.
$1,000.
Right.
So it doesn't feel as much like
Right.
your money.
It's really more. You're just there. You're kind of paying for your entertainment for a few
you're
hours.
Yes.
And in a situation for you, who, someone who doesn't gamble all the time or doesn't play,
Yeah.
you don't play blackjack or craps. You don't have you don't have any idea what a craps table is all about, right?
No, I do not play blackjack.
This is the perfect opportunity to learn how to play craps. If you've always wanted to learn how to play craps, for instance, you come and the dealers, we have professional dealers that will be running the tables.
Okay.
And by all means, you have this fake money. Now is the time to come and learn how to play craps.
Yeah.
So
I want to be the guy that blows on the dice.
You
at the real casino, they won't let you do that. But
really?
No, yeah, you can't.
Oh, that's a movie thing?
That's a movie thing, yeah.
Oh.
Because we've been known to play craps.
Okay.
We generally play at different tables because she says I get a little loud and obnoxious, and she doesn't want people to know that she's with me.
Like to watch from afar.
Well, too, you could be playing and somebody will buy you a drink.
Maybe.
If
They're
you had
usually
several
free
tables.
at a casino, though.
Oh, see,
If
that's
you're
how
playing.
little I
They
gamble.
they give you free drinks to keep you there.
That makes sense.
Right?
Yeah, get them sauced up.
Yeah, the more drinks you
inhibitions.
have,
Yeah.
then
Hell yeah.
Then you
Oh,
put more
that's
chips
smart.
down on the table. But
So anyway, yeah, I mean, we have at the event we're going to have craps tables, blackjack, Texas Hold'em, roulette,
Oh, there we go.
3-card poker, and
And
a
some
couple
slot
and a few
machines.
slot machines.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I like roulette. It's just easy. Black, white, or green. Like the
Yeah.
one green slot. It's easy.
yeah.
Yeah. Or pick a number, whatever.
Yeah, but I don't get that. It's too far in the
Too
weeds. Just give me a
complicated?
color.
There
Okay.
you go. So yeah. So listen, it's gonna be a great night. It's gonna be a great event. The tickets are $50 a person, and so
Okay.
for your $50, you're going to get dinner, all of the live entertainment we talked about already, and $1,000 in casino money, and you're gonna have a good time.
Hell yeah.
We're
Where can they get the tickets?
They can get them on our website. We sell them through the website.
What's your website?
It's richardmartinezcancerfund.org.
All right. I'm writing it down. So I don't know if you guys have seen my website. I have a portion on my website that is for sponsors and charities.
Okay.
So if you guys give me permission, I will gladly put it up there free of cost, just so people are aware and they can see, because the only nonprofits that I support are ones where 100% of the money goes to 100% of the cause. So
100% of the money goes to
that's what I'm talking about.
And yeah, so it's when you come to the website, there you can see upcoming events, things that we're going to be doing. There's also, if you just want to donate money, there's a tab to donate money. You can also get some more information about kind of who we are and what we do as far as the cancer fund. But it's simple. It's
Yeah.
It's one of us designed the website, right? And
Not my primary job.
Yeah.
so but listen, it works for what we need, and
Yeah.
again,
Cops don't need complicated.
no, and we're cheap. Like we don't want to pay someone to build
Bro.
a website because it comes out of the cancer money, right?
You just called your wife cheap.
No,
Don't
I'm
call your
just
wife
saying,
cheap. You heard that, didn't you?
Frugal.
Yeah, there you go. You don't call your wife cheap. Come on, man.
But we do.
with the cancer money.
Yeah. We do try really hard not to
Yeah.
spend the money on anything other than cancer bills.
Right.
And so, and it's hard, you were talking same thing about this, as it grows, there are costs associated with it. Right. And so we looked into this year having someone build us a website.
Yeah.
But then,
If you find someone, let me know. 'cause-
well, then there's maintenance cost with that. Right.
Right.
And then there's all these add-on things, and it's like, man, do we want, that's whatever, $2,500. Do we really want to spend $2,500 on that? Or
Yeah.
do we keep the website that we have that isn't costing $2,500 and use that $2,500 to pay people's bills? And so that's what we've opted to do at this point. But yeah, as you grow and as things change and evolve and it continues to grow, there are more
Yeah.
administrative costs that
Yeah.
that come in there.
I feel your pain.
And
And this is part of the thing that makes me even feel bad when I start to try to ask for help. I got organizations like y'all. I got 10-7 Outdoors. I've got the Wounded Blue. I've got Tunnel for Towers. I got all these organizations I've had on the show and talked to them, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm such an asshole. I'm like, they're actually helping, people survive and live, and I'm over here like, look at my podcast.
but you're getting the word out, and
Yeah.
that's what's important.
I try.
It is.
Yeah, it is. And I try to quantify it to myself, but at the same time, like, this is a great cause. This is the stuff when Coronado reached out to me, she gave me the rundown real quick. I was like, it's no brainer. Like, easy. Have them come on. I'm down. Like, it's not that hard to get on this show.
We appreciate it.
It was really hard for us for you to book us. It was you were booked out for months, and we had to wait. And it was awesome. And it's an opportunity for people to hear about the foundation, and I'm sure it will generate calls.
Yeah.
Right. I foresee picking up a beneficiary because of this somehow or another. And
Okay.
but that's what we're supposed to do. That's what we feel like. That's what Richard wanted, and that's what we want to do. Is we want to help people. And so if we pick up a beneficiary because of this podcast, then that's what was supposed to happen.
Yeah. It's what I tell people doing this. If I just help one person throughout the whole thing, it's worth it. And I've gotten a lot of messages, calls from some people and stuff that certain things on the program has helped them out. And to
That's
me,
good.
it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's worth it. So same thing with this. I hope that if I can get one person to buy a ticket, if I can get one person aware of the foundation, whatever it takes. And anytime I do this with a nonprofit, I tell them, take whatever I put out there and use it for your own. I don't care. Like, it's fine. I give you it's recorded now. So you got full permission from me. You can't get in trouble.
There you go.
But yeah, that's
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and people ask us a lot. I shouldn't say a lot. Sometimes we get asked, like, why it's named the Richard Martinez Cancer Fund, or people suggest kindly that we should change the name because it's confusing for people that, like, who's Richard Martinez or what, and
It's why it exists. That's all
but
that
it
matters.
is why it exists.
Yeah.
And, initially when we were starting it, this was in 2010. So it's before really GoFundMe's and things like that were so huge. But what we learned really quickly was, okay, before we started it, if we just raise money and we give that money straight to Richard, we raise whatever, $30,000, and we give that to Richard to pay his bills, well, that's income. And he has to pay taxes
Yeah.
on that. And he doesn't need more money that he has to pay out. And so that's, it was suggested to us, you should do a nonprofit. And that's how, you can help him without it being income. And so, of course, then the next question is, well, what do you want to call it? And so, being creative like we are, we were like,
what's the obvious one?
Okay, Richard Martinez Cancer Fund. And that's really as much thought as went into it. Like, what are we going to call this thing? Well, it's a cancer fund to pay Richard's bills. So that's what we're going to call it.
Yeah.
And so, recently, especially people have, I know that you're helping, my friend who's this person, but it's hard to donate to something called Richard Martinez Cancer Fund because, is the money going to Richard? Is it going to my friend? But, people don't know,
Right.
it's, maybe we should have come up with a catchier name that's like Cops with Cancer or something. I don't know.
No.
But it's where it started. And so we're opposed to ever changing the name because it's about carrying on his legacy too and his memory and why it came from. But it's just interesting.
And well, if you're going to be if you're a serious donor, I want you to do your research.
Right.
Don't look into me and just go, oh, okay, I want to do it because find out why I exist. Find out the why. And it's the same with doing the pod stuff. I tell people, they're like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? That I know my why. I know exactly why I'm doing this. It's part of my mission statement. It's bridge a gap through education and long form discussion. Like, how often are you going to get to sit down and talk to a nonprofit? And now not only do people understand why it exists, the nonprofit, but now they know about the people that are doing it. and they
Right.
can invest in it even more
Absolutely.
because they're sold on the people behind it. They don't think it's just, 2-3 shady people that are out to, kind of do like what the Wounded Warrior Project did back in the day.
Right.
So
Well, and we do get a lot of support from other nonprofits and other like police organizations, whether it's POAs, police officer associations, or Brotherhood for the Fallen, or
yeah,
CLEAT. I mean, those are all organizations that have bought tickets to different events or come to golf tournaments, come
Yeah.
to casino night. And so it does help to
Yeah.
know the people behind that. Right. And the,
what
to know.
day is that fall on? The
it's a
event?
Saturday.
It's a Saturday night.
June
Saturday
24th,
night,
Saturday
June
night.
24th.
I told you
Will Rogers.
I start my new position June 17th, and Saturday night is the first night I work, so I will be working that night, but I could take it off. At least that first day. Make it a long weekend for me.
Figure it out.
Yeah. So, yeah,
it.
I'll bring the wife. I'll get my Western wear.
Perfect.
Cowboy boots.
You wear
and
whatever
hat.
you want to wear.
Listen, people, if you're hearing this, you need to wear Western wear. You're at Will Rogers.
Yeah.
Make it feel
You're in
authentic.
Cowtown,
Right.
Yeah.
Make it feel.
I mean, I'm going to have on boots and jeans, but
right?
I'm not
police
saying
boots,
every
right?
no.
Yeah.
No.
Cowboy boots.
Area cowboy
Yeah,
boots.
that's what's up.
But
I got George Strait boots, but it's cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
They're a lot cheaper.
but listen, if people don't want to wear boots and jeans, they can wear whatever,
Swimsuits and flip flops, probably.
Yeah.
But
None of that, but
I mean, it'd be entertaining to see.
could be,
Like, look at
or
you.
could be
Yeah.
scary to
Yeah.
see, depending on.
Well, I don't have anything else for y'all. Do you got anything else you want to mention that we haven't hit on?
I don't think so.
no, we really appreciate you having us on and
Yeah.
letting us talk about the Cancer Fund. And, it's, again, we're not always comfortable asking people for help or for money. We're definitely, this is coming on a podcast was not something that we had talked about before.
So you'd never done one before this?
No, we've never
Hell
done
yeah.
anything like this. This is,
Your first.
this
Outside of our comfort zone, for sure.
yeah, I mean, listen, it is not our normal to come on here and talk about ourselves, but it's about the Cancer Fund.
Yeah.
And, we, like she said earlier, we have always been unapologetic about trying to raise money for the Cancer Fund and get outside of our comfort zone. I mean, it's like you said earlier, having to ask people for money is difficult. When we make these calls to people asking them to support us, I don't like it. I hate it.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's the only way you're going to get it done. And so, again, if by doing this podcast, somebody makes a donation, somebody buys a ticket, or we pick up a beneficiary that needs assistance, then, coming over here and doing this was worth it. So,
Hell yeah. Well, you got to meet me too.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
It's been good.
and this is like, I know this is the first time we've all met in person, but this is how I act all the time. So I'm sorry. That's just,
You're good.
I'm a goofy, optimistic guy that
I like
doesn't
it.
really fit with police work as much, but it's just how I'm wired, I guess. But well, all right, guys, we'll get this wrapped up. I appreciate you guys being out here.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you
having
very
us.
much.